Hi, I'm Kyle, a tired therapist.
And I'm Jackie, also a tired therapist.
And together, we are
Two tired therapists.
Welcome to the pod. One of my coworkers must be following me because they text me and said random, but you wouldn't happen to be in right now.
You're like, no, I'm in Siberia.
No, I'm in Siberia.
Don't ask me questions, please.
My coworker lives in your neighborhood.
Oh, where?
A few doors down on the same road you live on.
Shut up. Where?
He said, you're in my neighborhood.
I don't know any. We know some of our neighbors, but like not that many.
He said, I recognized your car.
Yeah, ask him what his address is. That's weird, but I'm about to Google.
I'm pretty sure he's listened to the podcast.
What's look like?
He's black.
More than that.
10436.
10436. Yeah, we don't know them. That's to the other side of the street. We know our neighbors across, next to us, and then next to us.
So how far down is he?
He's like probably 4 houses down this way. 5 houses? Oh, maybe it's okay. Justin's gonna be exact.
Oh, he said no. They're not the dog that always gets out. He said each of our side neighbors do though.
Yes, they do. Yeah, it's bad. That's funny.
He said nope. That's their damn Chihuahua.
Yes, it's the fucking Chihuahua. Literally one day ran out and like started following us. And we were walking. Greer and Rocker were like, "What the fuck is this little bitch doing?" They're on the path a little bit too. They're on the walking path, just the other way. Well, that's fun. Is that really cool? Should we hang out with
Yo,
him? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he has kids, but you know.
Sorry for your loss. So I used to tell people who told me they were pregnant, and I think they got offended. But I was like, it's really a joke, but it's fine.
Well, what a turn of events. What a day.
We've discussed almost everything.
Almost everything. There's a lot going on.
Oh my.
Wow. I think in Two Tired Therapist history, we have to issue a formal apology.
A formal apology
to our number one fan.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, Greg.
Jackie, would you like to share?
It was wrong of us to not mention when we had a few episodes ago, we mentioned that who listens to this podcast, and Kyle and I were just laughing because we were like, no one listens.
No one listens. Yeah.
And then I said my mom, and I did not mention my father-in-law, Greg.
Yeah, our number one fan.
He was quite offended.
Yeah.
So mortally offended. He told me I'm no longer allowed in his house.
But I'm glad that the punishment is on you, and as far as I know, nothing was said about me.
Right. No.
So.
Nope.
There's that.
No. He was very angry. He screamed. He pounded his... No, I'm just kidding. None of that
happened.
He hit me. That did not happen. No, he was just like, I still listen. And I was like, oopsies.
Oopsies.
So I'm so sorry, Greg.
So sorry, Greg.
Number one fan, Greg. If you ever want to come on, let me know.
Yeah. And talk about whatever. It doesn't matter. We'll talk about anything.
Yeah, we could talk
anything you want. It doesn't have to be therapy related.
No, it doesn't have to be therapy related.
It could be like
half the time we're barely talking about it.
That's true.
Although we did the Hoarders episode, so that is adjacent.
Therapy adjacent. A lot of it is therapy adjacent. I don't know that, and I wonder. I think we as a podcast are probably very polarizing. I feel like people might listen and go, "Wow, I would never go to therapy with them," and then I think we have people that are like, "Wow, I would only do therapy with them."
I think you'd want it. Like, I don't.
I think I'm a cool therapist.
Yeah, I think. I would
call
be
in.
fine.
Call in. I have a couple clients that listen, and they still see me, so I don't know. So call in. Let us know. Would we be cool therapists? I don't know. It's hard to say.
Well,
but the answer is yes.
I just laugh because I'm like, I just did therapy with such a strange part of the population that my threshold for therapy is like somebody banging their head on the wall and me going, what the fuck are you doing?
Right. Like someone coming into you and being like, oh, I'm getting divorced. You're like,
yikes.
And? And what?
Call me when you put a pen inside your penis, okay?
Sounding. That's what that's called.
What? I've never heard that.
You don't know about this?
No.
Culture shock. Sounding.
It's
when, so usually it's like a metal rod.
Oh, no, it's not that.
And it's when you insert something into the penis. It's a sex thing. This
is not a sex thing.
Oh.
This is I want to go out to the hospital get Valium thing.
That's straight culture. I don't know what that is.
Straight anything and everything into the wiener.
No.
Paint.
No.
Plastic.
No, we
Pencils.
can't. No, we
pen.
can't. No, we can't do
I
that.
could tell you some stories.
No, we can't do
Patreon.
that. No, that's Patreon, and I don't want to hear that. So that's a Jackie only episode where she's just talking to herself because I will not be involved.
That would be an interesting. Well, I have other like wild stories that don't involve like self harm, but it's just
yeah,
that's rough.
Well, that's a great start to our episode. Talking
Sure.
about sounding, putting
Sure.
things in your penis.
Sure.
So welcome.
Sorry, I was drinking my wine.
Hopefully this isn't the first episode for some of you because you probably just turned it off at that point. Oopsies. So welcome.
Welcome.
Jackie, hot take.
On anything, or is this like what I'm tired of, or is this just like a hot take?
homophobia? What do you think?
Lame.
Inappropriate or necessary evil? I don't know. Let's talk about it.
Oh my god, what did I watch recently that was like, oh my god, it was probably a drag race. There's so many drag races going on.
I know, right?
Which it feels
literally.
a little like homophobia that I don't like. There was a poll on my Instagram that was like, I'm serious.
That you don't watch them all?
Yes, and it was like I only watch US or no subtitles, and I was like, well, I have to draw a line. I have to draw a line.
It's too much. It's too much.
I've watched all of the US's,
yeah,
including all the All Stars. I've watched all the UK's.
Queen of the Universe. Did you get?
No, I need to watch that. And I've watched some of the Canada, not all of the Canada. I've not watched any of the Down Under. I've heard it's trash.
Is RuPaul in charge of all these, or like what's going on here?
This next Down Under, Michelle is going to be the host.
Oh, okay.
So I think RuPaul said fuck Down Under.
Yeah.
There was also like a huge conspiracy theory a few years ago that like she actually wasn't in Australia when they filmed because none of the queens were actually shown in the same frame as her. It was a deep.
I love that.
It was hilarious. I kind of believed it.
There's like 9 of them going on at one time.
If I was RuPaul, I would. And she doesn't do Canada. That's Brooklyn Heights. Brooklyn Heights hosts that.
But do you think did she choose Brooklyn Heights to do that?
Yeah, I think so. I bet you.
Because there's also what was it Indonesia? What was Philippines?
Manila. Or no, Manila was doing.
Was it Manila?
So Valentina did Mexico.
Do you think she was chosen? Like, do you think RuPaul is like, I mean,
Nikki Doll does France.
Yeah.
Rita Baga from Canada does one of the other countries I don't know how to pronounce, and I can't remember which one it is because there's so many.
Yeah.
I think it's probably obviously the like Spain and like like I mean they don't really have like I don't know. I mean if I was RuPaul I would literally do US and UK and that's all I would do.
Well, sure.
I wouldn't do any other like. And I would either ask or appoint, but then obviously the other countries where you don't really like know somebody from there necessarily, like I mean, I guess you just ask whoever is the most prominent. Like Pangina Heels was Thailand. I mean, she came on and did UK. Oh, I watched the UK versus the Worlds and stuff. I watched the versus the Worlds, but it feels like homophobia when I don't watch all of them, and I just can't. I can't get to. There's so many. So
you're
so
homophobic.
Many.
That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting.
There was also I saw some. So it was a drag race thing where it was like the lighting on this is very homophobic, and I laughed really hard, and I was like, it kind of was.
Well, again, I listened to our past episodes.
Yeah.
Because I'm a hidden narcissist.
I was gonna say narcissist.
And one of them was we were talking about something about gays, and I said, "Well, I'm for the gays," and you said, "Well, allegedly." And I was like, well, that's true.
Allegedly.
Still true. Anyways, Jackie,
Uh-huh.
What you tired about? What's going on?
Well, this is probably going to come out like after the whole thing is done, but I will say I'm back on my bullshit with Love is Blind because the UK season is out. Highly recommend. If you've never watched.
I've never watched. I wait
you
for
should start
Trixie
with
and Katya to do their I
Sure.
like to watch, and that's
The
good
UK
enough
one,
for me.
though, is pretty good. Better than the US. Because here's what I'm tired of. This is a rant for the US.
Yeah.
So the Love is Blinds and really all of the shows on Netflix that are like dating centric, and I've not watched a lot of them to be honest, but a lot of them in the US, like it's like 22-year-olds being like, I haven't found my person yet, and I'm just looking for love, and I'm looking to get married. And I'm like, bitch, you don't know anything about anything.
This is not it.
Like you could shit in the toilet and you'd be like, I love it. Like, I mean, like it's just, but the UK one that is currently on Netflix, if you want to watch it, highly recommend. Again, it's interesting. Obviously it's a different culture, but most of them are above 28, and it's making a huge difference in everything. What are you looking at?
No, I'm trying to find. No, I'm listening to you. I'm just trying to figure out what I want to talk about.
Okay. So
I have a long list.
guy's like intently looking at his phone.
But I'm
just
listening.
Like, bitch, are
no,
you
I'm listening to you.
But anyway, so they're all above 28. So it's making it for a little bit of a better season. Most of them are above 30. Like there's like 2 or 3 that are like 28 or 29. But it's making for a better season because they're actually like, I've dated and like I've had and it's like finally these bitches in the US are like 23.
Yeah.
They've had one boyfriend in high school and they're like, I just can't find anybody. And they're also very hot. They're all like, they look like a model. The UK people look real. They look like real people. They are like, all of them are good looking. I wouldn't say they're ugly, but again, another thing I'm tired of is the casting for some of the shows.
They're not like models.
No, they all look like average people. The guys for the most part are pretty.
That's what
chiseled looking.
And one of those shows that Trixie and Katya did there, I like to watch. They said like, I want the like dumpy Sharon to come in. And
agreed.
Like I want to like show me the ugly people.
Yeah.
Like trying to do this.
Yeah.
I think that would be so much.
We just watched Too Hot to Handle. It's another show that's terrible. And so, have you ever heard of this? I think we've talked about it on the podcast.
Maybe.
The psychology of this is really interesting to me. It's a show, and this is the first.
Is that where they can't have sex? Yeah.
But
again,
like they
Katya,
literally. I mean,
they can't.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? But they're all like, I mean, they're all very good looking and like they're all very like plumped and boob jobs and butt jobs, and the guys are all chiseled, and I'm just like, where's the ugly people? I want to see an ugly Too Hot to Handle.
Yes, seriously, I would watch that.
Same, I would watch the shit out of that. Anyways, but I'm just tired of the casting decisions on some of these shows. But I'm really loving the UK Love Is Blind. The finale has not come out, so ask me later. But so far, the first like 8 or 9 episodes have been pretty good. It's the weddings. The next thing is the weddings, where they make the decision at the altar, and there have been some great moments from the US version of those.
It's too much.
One girl ran off and she fell, and it was hilarious. And she ran outside and fell, so there was like mud on her dress, and she just kept running. It was fucking funny.
So dramatic.
It was so funny.
So dramatic.
What are you tired of? Since
So
you're picking.
This is
scrolling through a long list.
I have a long list. I was looking through a backlog. I was trying to go through some of the things I've had in the past. I would say this is a niche for people who have worked in customer service.
Oh, lovely.
Have you worked in customer service before?
I worked at Old Navy for several years.
So that's right. So you might identify with this. When people put down, like they go to hand you like money or their card and they put it down.
Oh,
instead of handing it to you. That's tired.
So rude.
Don't do that. Anyone who does that, if you are paying,
especially if my hand is out, people would literally still do that.
If your hand is out, you'll literally be like, it's $25, and they'll go, and they'll put it down. I used to work at, well, I can't say because it might give away where we live, but I used to work at a grocery store.
Sure.
That is really only in the Midwest. There you go. And people would do that all the time at the cash register, where you'd be like, oh, okay, it's $25, and they would, and change. Yeah. Like if you put a $20 bill down, fine, I'll pick the bill up. But when you put change down, because one, I bite all my nails off, so I can't pick them up.
Yeah, I will say my retail years, my nails were rough because it's like they got. But I think I told the story about the lady who threw her stuff at me on 4th of July because she was mad about an online coupon not working in the store.
I don't think you have.
Oh, well, long story short, I was working 4th of July. So, all the Old Navy, I'll say I worked at Old Navy. All the Old Navy t-shirts, the flip-flops, everybody was going crazy. There was an online promotion the same week. It was like 20% off your order. The store was running like a 15% off, plus like shit was on sale. So it really wasn't like a huge difference in price. I will be honest. It was not a huge difference in price.
But people freak out.
This lady came in with her husband and her son, and she came to the register, and I checked her all out. It was like $100, literally like $100, probably not even $100. And she handed me the coupon, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like on the coupon, it says it's online only. Like I can't make this work. Like I can't scan it. It won't work on our computer. She goes, well, she was like, what do you mean? And I said, well, it's an online only. I said, technically
this
for
is
Old Navy,
online.
and I don't know if this is how it is. This was like 10 plus years ago, but online store and the physical store were considered two different stores.
Right.
Like you could return
I think
stuff.
It's still the same.
Yeah, you could return stuff, and you could do that in the store from the online, but you couldn't use online coupons for in-store and vice versa. You couldn't do it. And so I was trying to explain to her, and she lost it.
Would not have it.
She lost it. She was like, I want a manager. So I had to call my manager, who is like the nicest lady in the world. And this bitch was being a dick. Her husband was so embarrassed. You could see it on his face. He was like mouthing. He was like, I'm sorry at me. The son like had ran off, and then she was like, do you have scissors? And I was like, yeah. And so she cut the tags off the flip-flops that she really hadn't paid for and gave them to her son so he could put them on right then and there for whatever reason. And so my manager, she lovely lady, she came up and she was like, "What's the issue?" And I was like, she gave me this online coupon. It doesn't work. And so most cases our managers were like, they didn't give a shit, so they were like, we'll give it to him. But because this lady was being an ass, my manager was like, no, I'm not giving it to you.
Yeah.
And so she was like, I'm so sorry, I can't do this. Like, for the most part, you're really not getting much of a better deal. Like maybe you're spending like $5 more, like truly. And the lady was mad, and I was like, what do you want to do? Because you also cut the fucking tag off of these flip flops. And she was like, I'll pay, I guess. And the husband again was like, I'm so sorry. I'll never forget his face. He like would not make eye contact with me. So I do the rest of the transaction or whatever. Like I was trying to get fun, and then I was like, how are you gonna pay? She paid with a fucking check.
Oh, girl.
And our policy at Old Navy was we had to ask for their ID. It didn't matter. We had to. And so she does the check. I start the thing, and I was like, can I have your ID? She threw it at me.
Oh.
She threw her fucking ID at me. And I, like, to this day, it's my favorite retail store because I was, like, trying not to laugh the whole time because she was losing her marbles over maybe $5.
Right, like $5, like a little over $5.
Right. And she bought a bunch of shit. It wasn't just, like, T-shirts. But anyways.
Well, it's Old Navy. You can get so much stuff.
And, of course, the checks take longer because they had to process through and do all the shit. So
did she have to write it, or was it the machine that would write it for you?
The machine would write it for you, but you had to sign it and do the amount or something like that. I forget how they had to fill parts of it out, but the machine took, like, 30 minutes to do because it was like it took forever. So she was fuming, and I was just sitting there like,
I'm getting paid.
Yeah, I was like, and people were like watching this interaction. Her husband was like dying, and so finally went through and I like put her and I was like, you want it in the bag or and she was like in the bag, and so I put like the receipt in the bag and I was like, okay, have a great day, and she fucking stomped off.
I bet she did.
And her husband was like, so sorry.
I hope she's listening.
I know. That. I don't remember. It was probably the epitome of what we would like a Karen, if you would
describe
a Karen.
For sure.
But I'll never forget it because she threw it at me, and then of course it landed on the fucking like counter, and then I had to like scrape it because I couldn't pick it up with my nails. So I get what you're saying. It was horrible, but yeah, people would just.
I know. I love that. When I worked at my retail job, I worked up at the service desk a lot. And I loved when people came up and they're like, my coupon didn't work.
Oh,
and
sure.
It would be like, because they bought the wrong thing, or it said you have to buy 2 and they bought 1.
Yeah.
But the policy was like, if it was like $1,
whatever.
35 cents, you just do it.
Yeah.
But the way that the system processed it, you gave them cash. So I loved when they gave me 1 coupon for 35 cents off, and I would give them a quarter and a dime, and they would look at me like, what just happened? I'm like, yeah, that fucking happened. You have your 35 cents.
That's
Get the fuck out of my line.
And I love it. Oh my God, that's evil.
Because they would come up like, I can't believe this didn't work. And I'm like,
my God.
No worries. Don't you worry. Let me get that for you. And then they get 35 cents, a quarter and a dime. It was like.
See, I would have done pennies. I'd have been like, here's your 35 fucking pennies.
They didn't know what to do. And I'm like, Anyways, I finally, in Too Tired Therapist history, got my life together long enough to plan a fucking episode, because when's the last time I planned a real episode?
Well, the psychology hacks one you planned.
I looked up memes.
I said, did you see that thing? What was that? Was that the thing you said, the low quality, that now like the alpha shit is coming on my fucking profile?
Oh, yours? Yeah. Well, low quality woman. I don't know what to tell you. So I finally planned our cult episode.
Okay. There's so many ways this could go. So
There's interested. So many ways.
I don't know what Kyle's gonna say. So
this episode is probably about to be 9 hours because
it was already 9 hours.
It's already 9 hours. Wait, what?
It's already 9 hours because we talked about retail.
That's our
sound check.
That's our sound check episodes that may or may not be coming out. I don't know. We just talk into the microphone, and producer Justin makes shit happen.
I know.
And then he yells at us. That's all we have. So we're gonna talk about cults. And I know we've talked about different documentaries and things that have talked about cults, but we've never done anything about like cults in general. And I mean, I think it's going to shake us a little bit.
Oh.
Because really what we talk about as cults is not cults.
Okay.
So what do you, Jackie, when you think about a cult, how would you define it? What would you say?
If I'm talking about traditional cult, I'm thinking like there's a specified leader, that there's some type of ideology or religion or framework that they're operating off of, and that there are followers who are doing whatever the leader of it says.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I think about. Like, that's a very basic, but that's when I think
Yes.
of cult, that's what I'm thinking.
So the dictionary definition is a system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object.
Sure.
So the word cult is actually a religious word.
I always knew it to be religious, not what it is now.
So when you translate the word like cult into other like Eastern European languages, it actually more closely would be sect for us. It's a sect. So it's not this like connotation that the mainstream media has portrayed it as. But what they would define it as would be the following characteristics.
Oh, here we
ready?
go.
So can be a religious group, though not always.
Sure.
A charismatic leader
who
exercises total control.
Sure.
An apocalyptic vision or a doomsday cult.
Yeah. I think of what's that guy? The Jim Jones, the
Jim
Heaven's
Jones,
Gate or whatever it was.
Uh-huh. Isolation from society.
Yeah.
An emphasis on transcendent spiritual experience.
Okay, Mother God.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
We gotta talk to the Galactics.
Rigid rules. I listened to the episode to prepare for this.
Oh my God. Oh, I love it.
Rigid rules governing group members' behavior.
Okay.
And exploitation, often sexually and financially. So that's like mainstream media. So all these like cult documentaries.
Sure.
But that is not really the essence or the like when people study
foundation,
cults,
I
like
guess.
that's not what they're studying.
Sure.
And we'll talk about I read there's a word for them.
Oh.
The American Psychological Association has a definition of cults. It is a religious or quasi-religious group characterized by unusual or atypical beliefs, seclusion from the outside world, and an authoritarian structure.
Okay.
Cults tend to be highly cohesive, well-organized, secretive, and hostile to non-members.
Agree.
So I looked into so then where did this idea of like cults as we know them through mainstream media, where did that come from? So like I said, when initially that was started to be studying, like cult was not considered a negative thing. So going back to like ancient Rome, many people belonged in cults, also held positions of power in society and were actually well respected. So like it was a cool thing to be part of a cult. And it does have its roots in organized religion. So there's a cult of the Virgin Mary.
Love.
And there's cults of like other saints. So Catholicism. So you can be in a cult of like Saint, I don't know any of the saints.
Anthony.
You know?
There's one.
But the mainstream media, the word for them is called New Religious Movement, or NRMs, are what these idea of cults should be.
Every time you say mainstream media, I just think of MAGA. I'm so sorry.
I mean,
you keep saying it, and I'm just like...
I mean, is it? I don't know. Cults? Maybe.
The mainstream media.
Mainstream media, capitalism.
We should put out a song around Christmas time. And
Oh, my. Oh, my. So we talked about this a little bit in a previous episode, but who joins a cult? Who gets involved in a cult?
Well, there's a lot of like interesting studies about like the perfect member, but I think a lot of the times it's somebody who personal. This is my opinion. Are you asking for my opinion, or are you asking for my real,
whatever you're
my
thinking.
thought is it's a lot of times a person who's looking for something, and something is a broad term for like to belong, to identify with somebody else, to have like people, or maybe somebody who's lost a little bit in life, like they don't know what they want to do with their life, they're not sure. I think those are the people that get capitalized a lot on from cults. There's something to be said though. There's a lot of studies that say like it's people who are actually pretty educated that end up being in cults, which is a little like backwards if you think about that. You're like, oh, you think it's probably people who don't know much about anything, but I think it's a lot of people who are just looking to belong. Like there's something missing in their life.
I think it's both. I mean, I think it's both because people who are educated tend to have power from a psychological sense. Power in a psychological sense is ability.
Yeah.
But they're also missing, like you said, that thing. Like they're like, I'm missing this thing, but I also have the power to find it. Whereas
Yeah.
if you're not educated, you don't have that power. So it's just kind of
Sure.
like, I can't find that thing.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense. Well, hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen, because I looked up actual research
Ooh.
on this tea.
Legit science research.
And let me tell you, it was research that I had to look some of these words up because I
I just imagine you're like, what the fuck is that? You're like, oh, it's a separate Google tab, and you're like,
I did.
What is?
Stop reading me because that's exactly what I had to do because I was like, oh, I found this article and I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be so
Oh
great.
my God.
And then I start writing things down. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
Oh my God.
So who joins cults? People with ego weakness,
Okay.
which means
A low sense of self, I would say.
low impulsive or immediate behaviors, a sense of
Okay.
inferiority, fragile sense of identity, unstable emotionality, and excessive vulnerability.
Okay. I don't disagree.
I
I keep thinking of Mother God. This is bad, but I'm
No.
like literally
No,
thinking
we'll
about
get
her.
there. We'll get there.
Because it's kind of what it sounds like.
We'll
If-
talk
I guess
about-
listen to that episode if you haven't. 'Cause
Yeah.
then this will make more sense.
So we talked emotionally vulnerable,
Sure.
like you said, a propensity toward dissociative states. So they tend to just like check out.
Don't get me started on the dissociative stuff. But yeah, I agree.
Tenuous, deteriorated, or non-existent family relations / support systems.
Mother
This
God.
I'm covering. These are not my words, just so you all know. Inadequate means of dealing with exigencies
What the fuck is
of
that?
survival. So like
Exigency?
immediacy. Like,
Oh, okay.
I have
okay.
to.
Okay.
This problem is happening. I have to immediately deal with it.
Oh, okay.
A history of child abuse or neglect.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a given
I
a
mean,
little bit.
trauma. Exposure to idiosyncratic or eccentric family patterns. So unique family. So
Yeah,
Ruth Ann,
Call back to the
friend of the
Hoarders
pod.
episode. She's dead.
oh, R.I.P.
One of the comments on the YouTube was like, she died several years ago, and somebody bought the place that she hadn't remodeled it and made it nice and like.
She's still a friend of the pod. Death does not preclude one to being a friend of the pod. Proclivity toward or abuse of controlled substances. Mother God. Unmanageable and debilitating situational stress and crises. And intolerable socioeconomic conditions.
Okay.
I literally was thinking of Mother God the entire time that I talked.
Some of this kind of makes me feel a little like it's a borderline personality disorder.
Oops.
Like not like
well.
Not all of it, but like some of it is
Sure.
a little like overlappy.
Well, and I think we talked about, and maybe it was the Mother God episode, but we talked about like before you had looked it up, like it's the people that are having, the problems, like easily manipulated, and then we kind of looked up and we're like, oh, like educated and
yeah, it's like it's not what you think. Like when you look up who's a good cult member, it's like the opposite of sort of what you think.
you would think.
It's a little it's wild. The educated people, like people who are educated.
Yeah, that wasn't in this, but I mean, you could still be educated and all these things.
Yeah. Very DBT of you.
Oh, thank you. So we'll come back to that. Maybe we go through this and then maybe we can take a break and then come back to some of the specifics because I want to talk about specific cults and things we've talked about. So the other side of this is, what are cult tools?
Oh.
What do cults use to get people in?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think?
It's power.
Power.
It's a sense of how do I put this? Because it's hard to describe. But I guess it's like maybe like shame or like there's like I've watched a couple more documentaries, and as of late, one of them, I don't know if you've watched it, it's on Netflix. It's like Dancing with the Devil or for the Devil, the TikTok one.
Oh,
and it's like
I gotta add that one. To this. What were they called?
Dancing for the Devil. No,
I'm just gonna say Dancing with the Devil.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called. I sang the song for like a week, and Justin was like, "Please stop singing that." I was like, "Dancing with the Devil," but it's this long story short.
It was the church.
It's a guy who has a church. But I think like what I'm thinking about it is, especially when they interviewed like the former members, is a lot of them said like they felt like a sense of like if they didn't do stuff, like bad things would happen or like there would be consequences or something. Like I don't know what the right word is, but like I think a little bit of it is like shame based. It's like, oh, no one's gonna understand. Like you're doing this, and that documentary is very sad. If you don't, even if you hate TikTok like Kyle and I, it's actually a pretty good documentary.
No, it's good.
Like.
That's not a big part of it.
Yeah, but it's like, but it's an interesting sort of like lens of like what I would consider like a modern day cult.
Yes.
So like shame, or there's some
Yes.
power and control. It's
So here's, again, research. So I'm going to say, this one is not research, but I'm going to say it and then we'll come back and talk about it. Brainwashing.
sure.
That one, little fake news there. We'll talk about it. But here's the real ones. Intimidation,
Yeah.
coercion,
Yeah.
indoctrination,
Yeah.
exploitation,
Yep.
isolation,
Yep.
control over basic needs,
Yeah.
relationships, and sex.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Now I added, these are mine. I added these. A hierarchy,
Yeah, there has to be.
vagueness, and then I added the cult leader personality.
So you're basically talking about an MLM.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Did you ever watch the Lula whatever on
No,
Amazon
but
Prime?
I
That's
need
crazy.
to add that. Did you watch The Vow? Nexium?
No.
Girl.
I don't know if I can watch. That one's crazy.
You have to watch it. I literally...
The Lula. I mean, I fell asleep in the middle of the Lula. It was still really good, but I fell asleep in the middle of it. But it was like,
no.
you want to talk about MLN, the Lula Row. I'm so sorry if you'd wear those or still buy them. I wouldn't, but it was wild.
I need to watch that one, but we got to do an episode of The Vow too. But so cult leader personality. So again, this is research. This is not me. Just hierarchy and vagueness related to I added. Cult leader personality, charisma,
Uniqueness.
uniqueness,
Never
nerve, talent. I have a hard time with this word. Authoritarian control,
Yeah.
inability to tolerate being wrong, and then I hate this. Malignant narcissism,
That doesn't mean anything.
whatever that means. Unpredictability,
Yeah.
insecure attachment issues,
Sure.
delusion, sense of grandiosity.
Although I don't think it's like true delusional
No,
psychosis.
no.
It's like you believe everything
Well,
that's happening. Yeah.
Not psychosis,
Mother God.
but delusion. Yeah, Mother God. And exploitation.
Mother God.
That's literally, and I called it discussion, connecting the dots. Mother God. So
I think about that once a day.
I think it'll make more sense when we go back and we start to pull out specific things. But I think what you were talking like intimidation. If you don't believe this,
yeah, it's like
there will be consequences.
Well, and there's like a shaming quality too of
Right.
like if you don't follow what we're doing, like people
You're
will think you're
bad.
crazy. Like it's interesting.
Yes. Now I want to quickly, and we'll take a break after this. But the brainwashing. So this blew my mind. So maybe it'll blow yours, maybe it won't. Brainwashing is not real.
Yeah, I've always thought about that. To be honest, like I've always really thought about like
it came out of the 1970s with this anti-cult movement. And so according to brainwashing theory,
that's such a strange thing to say, the anti-cult movement.
But
I get it.
It's what was Patty Hearst with
Sharon Tate? No.
The
Mansons? No.
Before that, it was what the fuck were they called? I don't remember.
Oh, here comes Kathy.
Kathy, I'm so sorry, Kathy. But she was like an heiress that got, fuck, what are they called? I can see their like little flag. I want to say the golden something. I don't know. But she was like this heiress that they kidnapped her, and then all of a sudden she was fighting with them, and it was where like Stockholm syndrome came from. And so it was that, because people were saying cult members are not consciously choosing this alternative way of life, but instead they're victims to a cult, and they're being brainwashed. And it stemmed from this belief that these people were like, Patty would not do this. And so they've done something for her to change her way of life. Like, she was into Barbies and
like
whatever. And now she's got like an Uzi doozy and she's like shooting up a bank. But as I started researching this, there was no basis for it. And so current research on brainwashing, I'm telling you, I went down a hole here, says that most people who join a cult actually choose to leave eventually.
Yeah.
And they find out that many people are not, when they join these cults, as we know them as mainstream media, are not cut off from society. They often keep a job and the relationships that they had outside of a cult.
Well, I will say that I think that's true. I don't know. This is a little sidebar, but did you look at the the Dancing with the Devil one, like the person who they say is in the cult, do you ever look at her Instagram? Oh my God,
No.
it's so funny. It's
No.
not funny, but it is kind of funny.
No.
But the comments are like, oh, they let you out today? Like she went to like a lake with her husband and like they were taking pictures. People were like, oh, you got to go outside the camp today?
But we'll talk about that.
I think I get the brainwashing thing. Like I can see like why that's not a real thing. But I think at a certain point you're just fed the same information and like shamed enough that like you start to believe it. That doesn't mean you're brainwashed, but like it's sort of like a low self-esteem thing in my opinion. Like it's like
series of misfortunate events.
Yeah, it's like, or like maybe stuff is being attributed to like because you're not doing this is what's happening or whatever. Like
yes, and I think that's the delusion part is
because
like when we talk about delusion, it's a break from reality.
Sure, yeah.
And so maybe not in a psychosis sense, but like I'm thinking of The Vow just because I just watched that of like. They created this world, like within the world of, it was Nexium in that one. Like there were certain things like if you did this, that meant it was this, and you did this to atone for it, which is not the real world.
Yeah.
You have got to watch it.
I don't know if, like, that one's
it's going to
crazy.
fuck you up. So you have to watch it.
I hate getting fucked up.
No, you need to. So research also suggests that people who leave a cult actually experience psychological damage and left involuntarily. So again, not brainwashed if you suffer psychological. So that's our groundwork for today.
Okay.
And so why don't we take a break?
Sure.
And then let's do a little discussion.
Okay.
On cults, and I'll have some questions and some other things for you. So, we'll be right back. Okay, let's have a discussion.
Okay.
So let's connect the dots.
Discuss, yep.
So we talked about Mother God a lot. And we talked R.I.P. We've talked about Nexium, which I've seen, you haven't.
No.
The Program.
Yes.
We got to talk about that.
We did have an episode on the program. Yep.
Scientology.
Don't get me started.
The Dancing with the Devil people.
Dancing with the Devil.
And then I also threw in the Manson family, even though I don't know too much about them. But so I wonder if we kind of just breeze through some of this and give some specifics.
Sure.
So who joins cults? So let's talk about Mother God. Let's talk about the Mother God people, just because I feel like that we've done the episode, people can go back and listen to that. So ego weakness.
Sure.
Impulsive or immediate behavior.
Sure.
All those people.
A lot of them were like
hippies.
Younger too.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Yeah. A sense of inferiority.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that they were the disenfranchised.
Mm-hmm.
Fragile sense of identity.
Yes.
Unstable emotionality.
Mm-hmm.
And excessive vulnerability. I mean, they hit check.
All of them. Yeah. It's so mind-boggling that one of them like was in vulnerable medically and like joined them. It's wild to me. So,
but I think I think that's a part of it. So I think the propensity towards dissociative states, right? Like the delusion part.
Sure.
I mean, remember, I listened to our Mother God episode to prepare. Do you remember at the end where the one who was still in the cult was driving through the neighborhood and she's like, none of this is real?
Yeah, I was like, what is wrong with you?
That's the delusion, though, right? Of like, they've created, it's not like from a psychotic sense, but it's this belief of like, this is the 5D.
Well, and I took that a little bit too. I think we talked about it in the episode. I took that sort of as like this is like the way I took it. And she was speaking 100% like this is not a real reality, but underlying it kind of felt like this is not like none of this is real. Like the material stuff isn't real. It's kind of the way that it was coming across. But yeah, they were.
But it's that belief like that creates the delusion of like you're living in a different world,
right?
Than everybody.
Well, it's
else.
like you don't see what's really. I mean, it's it's like the QAnon stuff. Like we could talk about that too, right? But we don't have to get political.
Well, and part of the Nexium thing too was in Nexium there was this leader. His name was Keith, and
that guy.
He was like this ethic guru. Like that's kind of like he was talking about living like an ethic life. And ethic, is that the right word?
Ethical?
Yeah, like ethical life.
Yeah.
And he would say like if you did something that in reality displeased him,
right.
It was called an ethical breach.
Yes.
And you had to make up for that. But you never could. So like that's the kind of delusion of like that doesn't exist in the world.
Right.
Like we don't talk about like that. But he created that, and so people followed it to the letter. Like he'd be like, well, you did an ethical breach, so now you have to like send me a picture of your tits. And I'm not I'm not kidding.
No, I know
That's
you're not, because
legit.
I know it's like a sex cult. Like I know because
We have to do an episode on
then
that.
they brand people or whatever.
Oh, they
Because
did.
that chick who was in what,
Yes.
Smallville or something was
Allison Mack.
yeah,
Yes,
she was
ma'am.
in it, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And she got away lickety split. She got off scot-free, in my opinion.
Didn't she go to
but
prison?
but not as long as everybody else did.
Wow.
So that's another episode.
Celebrity.
But
No, I'm just kidding.
celebrity. Female privilege. There it is. There it is.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it is as far as the delusion, right? Of like they create this kind of world that works differently than I'm making these gestures like
I know you're making a lot of hand gestures. No one can see it except for me, and it's really
we need
entertaining.
to start recording. We need to start recording.
Oh my god.
That like it's separate and it separates them. So tenuous, deteriorated, non-existent family relation support systems, like we talked about that in the episode with Mother God too, of like
Oh my
these
God.
people were all like abandoned by their family, whether
Yeah.
objectively they were not. Inadequate means of dealing with the exigencies of survival. Those people didn't know. They couldn't.
No.
It was day to day. It was
No.
moment to
Yeah.
moment. Child abuse or neglect. I feel like not everybody, from what we're in some of the documentaries with Mother God, not everybody
I
did.
get it though.
But
Like
I could see that.
I understand kind of the or like, no, I don't want to say the process, but the thought as to why you would want somebody who is, because I mean they just
No self-esteem.
yeah, like I'm trying to think. I'm like the self-esteem would be gone. The easy, I don't want to say easier, but maybe there's like a propensity to sort of be like more trusting, I guess. Like that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Well, and I think that precludes all the other things we just talked about, right? Like
Yeah.
if there's a history of child abuse and neglect, like you probably have ego weakness, you are emotionally
Sure.
vulnerable, you do you do have dissociative states, like you don't have good relations with your family. Idiosyncratic or eccentric family patterns, so unique
Sure.
family patterns. We saw that with some of the Mother God people. You see that too with people in Nexium and the Vow. They talk
Yeah.
about just their families and how they were just not cohesive.
Which was
families.
interesting for the Dancing with the Devil, the main family. They were like a very solid family unit.
Yeah.
Loving, like good relationships. That really stuck with me. I was like, that's an interesting, like,
Yeah.
because they really, but for the most part, it is like
Yeah.
you have negative family relationships, or there's like an estrangement, or there's,
Yes.
that's what you're seeking, is somebody to kind of fill that
Well, and I think
role.
it's probably not. This isn't like a checklist. I'm sure. I'm sure it's like you don't have to have all these things, but
No, but it makes sense though if you really boil
like
it
you could
down.
have a good family, but then all these other things.
Sure.
I mean, I think another part of it that we might talk about in a second, but it's that like, well, we'll talk about it in a second because that was my personal / professional opinion.
Oh.
Proclivity toward abuse or of control. Wow. Proclivity toward abuse of controlled substances, which we saw in Mother
Interesting.
God, right?
Yeah.
Like she
Oh.
had her
Meth.
ascending juice, fireball.
Still, I cannot get over her just like screaming, and they're like, "It's the Galactics."
It's
and
the
I'm like,
Galactics.
I'm like, she's drunk off her ass. She has
Right.
no idea what's happening, but
Right.
it's the Galactics. Robin
Right.
Williams yelling at you all.
Right. She's been hammering a fifth all day. Like she's drunk. She's drunk.
God.
And unmanageable and debilitating situational stress and crises.
Sure.
And then socioeconomic conditions. I mean,
Sure. Mother God is a great example because they were constantly moving and constantly going around places. Yeah. Mother God is really a really good example for all of this, which is crazy because she wasn't like, I still don't really, she didn't have like a religious.
Well, wait, that's
She
a
did-
discussion question.
Okay.
Just wait.
Never mind.
We'll talk about that.
I'll table it.
Table that for a minute. Table that. So then let's talk about then some of the cult tools. So we'll skip brainwashing because we said that's not real. So intimidation. So we talked about that there's this like, if you don't follow this
Yeah.
little thing that we've created, like there will be a consequence.
Yeah.
There's that coercion to follow it. Like again, in the vow. So one of the things in the vow that they had to do is they had to provide collateral. You had to provide collateral. And usually it was tit pictures. It was usually tit pic or
The highest form of currency.
the highest form of current. I mean, you're telling me. And it was one of those things that you gave that to somebody
Sure.
as your like vow.
Sure.
And if you broke your vow, they would be released.
Interesting.
And it was other things. It was other things. Indoctrination, which I think is a part of that intimidation of like, we're making you believe this little
Sure.
world that we've created. Exploitation, which goes in with the coercion part of like, we have your collateral.
Yeah. Your titty pic.
Your titty pic. We have your TT pics. There's isolation, right? It's just
not funny,
us.
but
it's
it is
just
a little
us.
funny.
But I mean, I get it. I
just can't imagine
I don't
myself
know.
like doing. Well, that could be a good sound check
it's
episode.
that's
but-
another mind discussion questions.
Okay.
There's a control over basic needs, relationship, sex.
Sure.
Again, I'm going to the vow just because I literally just finished it today.
I'm gonna have to watch.
You have to watch it.
I'm
You have to
scared,
watch
okay.
it. No, you have to watch it. And in it, like, the guy Keith Raniere.
Isn't he like not good looking?
No,
Okay, great.
not at all.
I think I can picture him, but I was like, he's
not
not
at
good
all.
looking.
He's kind of like no, not at all. He
looks like those guys who did like that he did like the pickup artist guys. You know that? You ever
What?
heard of those?
Pickup artist. Oh, like peacocking and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he looks like.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
If you think
Yeah.
of like that's what he
Like
looks like.
he's like shorter and he's like
He's like dark haired and
he's
like
kind of fit. I think he got a little fitter as time went on, but like
Well.
at first he looked like Jesus, like he had long hair and a big beard. But then I think they were like, oop, like marketing change. And then he like kind of was given like Steve Jobs vibes, like he was kind
Okay.
of like I'm a guru
yeah.
thing. But he was like not super attractive, like
No.
by any means. But he was telling women they need to lose weight.
Sure.
And he created this little thing where you had to ask permission to eat. And they would tell you how much you could eat, what you could eat. He would
Okay.
ask permission to eat, like.
Interesting.
So these are the two I added. Hierarchy.
Yeah.
This is not research. This is my personal /
Kyle's hot take.
professional opinion. It seems like in cults and the things that I've watched, there's a hierarchy.
Yeah, I agree.
So Mother God, there was Mother God.
Yeah.
There was
Like Father God.
Father God, there was multiverse
God.
Father, right? Like there was the structure of like you had status and power. Like there were people who
you were
were
like
over
report. Yeah, like
people.
you reported to. It's sort of like kind of like that in Twin Flames too.
and Twin Flames, and in the program there was
Yeah.
a hierarchy where you got the point system.
Yeah.
If you got to a certain level, then
Yes.
you were a perpetrator now.
Yes.
And so I think that creates this I don't know what it is, but it's like you get into it and you're like, okay, this is the answer to my questions.
Right.
And I can get more answers if I do more work. Scientology, right? The same, where you start in and then you pay this
Right.
much and now you're a galactic or whatever the fuck they do. I don't really know.
God, the Galactics. Yeah.
But so I think that's just how people work. I mean, if you think about like high school, there's a hierarchy.
there's
when you're
always
in high
there's a
school.
hierarchy in everything that
And
you do in
everything,
life.
and everything. But I think that creates that's part of the delusion,
Right,
part
right,
of the
right.
dissociation of like, oh, this world, and I have maybe more control. If I
Yeah.
can just pay $5,000 and be a galactic,
Sure.
cool.
Yeah.
Versus you can't do that in the,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term, real world.
Yeah.
And if you think too about like, I mean, honestly, I think Mary Kay is
Yeah.
is a cult
Some
too,
of that
but
stuff
it's-
is, yeah.
right, like, and then vagueness. So I think, like you said, people are searching for that like answer, right? Like,
Yeah.
they're trying to figure out like what's my purpose or what's the meaning of life, and they find these things like Scientology or whatever.
I really think about Twin Flames is like a really good highlight of this because
Yes.
they're looking for their soulmate, basically.
Right.
Their twin flame.
Their twin flame, but then when they get into it, it's just word salad.
Yeah, it's
It's
nobody
like-
can really describe
No,
what a twin flame is.
But it's just
and
it's the buzzwords, right? It's like,
Yeah.
well, your twin flame is like, your passion lover and like your perfect match, and
But
they
also,
just
like,
complete you,
yeah.
and they're just, when you see them, you just like feel them,
Yeah,
and
and
then
you-
like when you feel them, you just like know.
But then they set you up with like a guy who has schizophrenia who's like very violent. It's
And
like
you're
and then,
like,
and then they're like, you have
okay.
to stay with this guy because
Right.
it's your twin flame.
and
it's
if
like,
you don't, it's your fault.
yeah,
actually,
yeah, it's
Exactly.
wild. Yeah.
But it's like, and that's again next to him, like that's how that he would have these like programs or so, I don't remember what he called them, and he would say, the meaning of life is like, when sometimes a boat is in the middle of the ocean and the ocean is rough,
sure.
and sometimes you're rough, and sometimes you're like the boat, and then sometimes we're like the ocean, and it's just like deep and it's vast. Like it's this word salad that people are like.
That's like what talking to a person with psychosis is like.
Well,
literally.
But that's like how he was. Like,
And you have to try to find the connection, and
that's
sometimes it
and
doesn't
like
make sense.
it's just deep enough that people are like, I am the ocean and I
Yeah.
am the boat, and like it gives you just that like sense, but it's vague. It's not this like It's not like
Sure.
therapy where it's like, okay, your thoughts influence your emotions and your behavior. So we're going to work on your thoughts.
Yeah.
And we do that by looking at illogical thought patterns and right, like it
Right.
doesn't it's just
Right.
it's just vague. And then of course the personality. So let's talk about that with Mother God, right? Like charismatic. We said she
Yeah.
was the party girl.
Yeah, she was like a
She was great.
manager. She was like she was able to
Mhm.
I'll say
People
influence.
liked her.
This was previous to the cult part, but she was like able to influence people. She was a manager at like a McDonald's. She was very like well to do there. Like they liked her. She was likable. She was young. She was
Yeah.
good looking. By conventional standards. Like I mean, like it's just
Yeah.
It's not hard.
But then it became this authoritarian control, right? She
Sure.
was like,
The Galactics are. I need to go speak to the Galactics.
right. The
Let me take my
Galactic
nap.
said mayonnaise is bad, so none of you are having mayonnaise.
Robin said.
Right. Robin said can't tolerate being wrong. Right. When she was called out, the
Oh my
father
God.
gods were gone.
Yeah.
She
Bye.
she could only have one, and then she had 10.
Yeah.
Malignant narcissism, whatever that is.
Not a thing.
Unpredictability. You didn't know.
Yeah.
You didn't know.
No,
what she
they
was doing.
they all kind of said that in
Yeah.
the documentary too.
Insecure attachment.
Sure. Yeah.
Delusion, we talked about that. Sense of grandiosity, exploitation. So, thoughts. Any other thoughts with some of the things we've talked about? The program, Mother God, Scientology.
I mean, we've talked about the majority of them. I mean, it's just like Twin Flames is a good sort of example of like the needing to fit in. Like the program is a little bit too. I mean, not to the extent of like you want to fit into this cult, but like you're trying to get through it.
I think more for the program, what we didn't see was like the workers. Like that would be the cult part.
The staff. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
the staff.
what was the and I think a lot of it is a lot. The way that I always think about cults is it's just like. It's like group mind, you know, that concept of like you tend to align yourself with people who think like you, and not that you are thinking these things, but like if you find this, if you're lost and you're like I don't know what I want to do with my life, but I would really like to share my life with somebody, and you go to this twin flame shit
bullshit,
like, and then it resonates with you because I could like watching that was the only documentary where I've watched it and I've been like you know what I could see how people really get sucked into this because like you're young. And you want to like fit in with somewhere and you want to have like a partner, but like they're so young. It's like 19, 20-year-olds. And it's like, you don't know what the fuck's going on at that point. But I mean, they suck you in with like, oh, but this person understands you fully. But like they can, like you said, there's no like real clear. And that's how I felt about Mother God. I was like, what does she really stand for? She didn't really stand for anything.
Right.
There was not a platform really that she was on besides
like here's what we're doing.
I know the Galactics, we're not in the real world, we're all going to ascend. Well, what does that even really mean? Like what's so great about heaven?
Vagueness, right? Like it sounds great. People who are like, oh, I'm trying to like get to the next level, and someone's like, oh well, yeah, we can ascend here. Oh,
what's the next? What is it? What is at the next level?
But it's like
chocolate and teddy bears. Like what?
I mean,
like what does that
maybe,
mean? Like then that's what gets
I think
me.
we talked about in the we didn't do a twin flame episode.
No,
did
we didn't.
But we talked about it and kind of like there's this like the delusion doesn't break because it gradually increases as far as what you're asked to do, right? Like at first you're asked to believe that like this is your person even though they have schizophrenia, like don't question it. And you're like, okay, I guess I can go with that. And then it's like, well, they have schizophrenia because it's your fault. And you're like, okay,
right, they
well,
can feel
I guess.
you separating from them. And it's like, oh my God, really?
But then it's like now you're getting a sex change. And you're like, whoa. Like at some point, I think that delusion breaks.
Yeah.
So I want to ask, I have a lot more discussion questions, but we'll be here all night. So let me ask you this one, because you kind of mentioned it earlier. So do you think cults as we know them from mainstream media, like mainstream media cults, do they initially develop with good intentions and then morph into something more sinister?
No.
Okay. Talk.
I don't think that I don't know that. Well,
and I know we can't make a sweeping generalization, but like,
I don't think. Well, I'll say like for the most part, as soon as you're trying to get more people to join your thing so you can get more money, like it's not good intentions anymore. And I don't know that any of them are really started because like you like I'm gonna use Twin Flames as an example because that's probably like the best sort of illustrator of this, and maybe even Mother God is good. Like. What were their, I mean, like, Mother God, what was your platform? Like, what was her original platform? Like, I don't know. So, like, I'm going to assume that her platform, like, was sinister. Like, she wanted people to follow her. She wanted to have 55 husbands. Like, she wanted to, like, I don't know, meet a guy who looks like Jesus, who is a,
God bless. Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, I don't know what her real, like, it's hard to know what the real intention is. I think
Yeah.
Twin Flames, in a sense, was probably started as like, let me help you find your person, but like it
And then,
morphed very quickly into this
yes.
weird sort of like, well, you have feminine energy and like, but you're really a man. So
Right.
guess what?
That
I
wasn't an
need you
initial
to
like part of the platform.
right. And it's
Right.
like, so I mean, I don't know. I would say
Yeah.
probably for the most part, I don't think they come from a good, for the most part. I don't know
Yeah.
many cults where I would be like, okay, that started from a good spot
Yeah.
and meant to stay good. I like, they all seem like they have like a weird back story.
I agree. I mean, I think. Well, again, you got to watch The Vow because it's going to change your life. Because at first, I think I would answer this of like, I think most that start out are harmless. Let me say that.
Sure.
Maybe not good intentions, but they're harmless.
Sure.
Like, I think, what was her name? Amy? Mother
Yeah.
God?
Yeah. Amy something.
I think Amy was just trying to live her life. I think Amy wanted to just like,
I think she was,
have her little alcohol use problem and like
I
not
think she was
live
like
in
a
a capitalist society.
I got the vibe she was like a free spirit and she wanted to
Yes.
like live in a hippie commune.
Yes.
That's where I think maybe that was the point for her.
Yeah, I don't feel like she sat out and was like, you know what, I'm gonna create this crazy
Yeah.
thing. So maybe I should reword this.
And I'm
to
gonna,
say,
like,
does it start
love
out
colloidal silver.
harmless? Right, like I'm gonna love colloidal
And
silver,
I'm gonna
and
die
I'm
of
gonna
anorexia.
die from it. Because the same thing in The Vow is that, and that's kind of spoilies. That's kind of the question they come up with in The Vow of like, because again, it starts out as this like this was a business that ran for over 20 years, and it was like this self-help thing.
Sure.
And again, when you watch it, you'll be like, well, some of this is basic psychology.
Yeah.
First, you go to therapy for much cheaper for this.
Yeah.
But like some of it's not bad. But then it's like behind the scenes, there's these sex cults and there's this branding. And so it's like, did
Yeah.
he start out going like, I'm going to make a sex cult and brand people?
Right. And then, yeah.
Or did something happen along the way where he was like,
there's money to be made in
there's
this.
something going on here. So I don't, and again, we can't make a sweeping generalization.
Well, and that's how I
but-
feel about like Twin Flames. Like I don't think they were
Like-
setting out, but then then you have to take their classes, and that's like a grand pop. Like I mean,
Right.
I think some of that I think it goes hand in hand sometimes with greed. Like
Oh, yes.
because you see the lucrative part of like I know how to find your twin flame, so let me sell this in a class form, and then let me recruit people who will like, and it's an MLM. I mean, it's like you
Yes,
find 3 people,
yes,
find 3 people, find 3
yes.
people.
That was part of the NXIVM thing too.
So
Yeah.
I think I don't, but I don't know. I feel like if you knowingly say I'm gonna find people, I'm gonna have them bend to my will or bend
Grooming.
to my whatever.
Yeah.
That's a sinister thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
I don't.
Mm-hmm.
We could have a separate discussion about religion and the basis of religion and what does that mean? Because
well,
I don't think
right.
you can classify religion in this sort of category.
No,
But-
I don't think necessarily. Maybe
but
you could.
no, I don't
but
think they start good and then turn bad. I think they probably
Yeah.
for the most part start
I think they at least
messy.
Are maybe, yeah, certainly messy, but and maybe some do set out. But I do think generally it starts out harmless for the most part, messy and harmless. But I don't think
Well, I think
anyone's
as soon
saying
as
like I'm going to hurt someone.
Right, I
Maybe
think-
I'm going to make money.
Sure. And I think as soon as you start seeing the cash flow,
Right.
aka
I mean, same with the
Amy,
program.
Mother God.
I think even with the program, right? Like, I think those people were like, "Oh, we're going to help kids."
Sure.
Did they look at the research? No.
No.
But I don't think they were like, "Oh, we want it to end up how it does."
Sure. Yeah.
But I think somewhere along the line, they were like, "Oh, power." I think it's power. People get that
Yeah.
power, and they're like, "This is yummy,
Yummy.
yummy power." So, okay, should we take a break real quick?
Sure.
And then I have a new segment for us.
Oh.
That we've kind of
Uh-oh.
talked about.
Oh, okay.
But let's take a quick break, let everyone decompress from our discussion question, and then we'll do our outro. We'll be right back. And we're back.
Hello.
So just a quick, just a new segment. As we alluded to in the beginning, there is a trifecta of parents now. We have confirmed now that each of us have a parent representing the
yes.
listening people.
Oh, yes.
So
Mhm.
I told Jackie off air that my father, hi Dad, hi Gary.
Hi, Dad.
Has started catching up. He
Uh-oh.
said that every day he's watching or listening to 2 episodes a day, trying to catch up. And
my.
he said that he had some notes and corrections
Oh,
that
hello.
he would like like to be known. So,
Okay.
Kathy, Greg, all of you listening, if you have notes and corrections, please let us know because we will start to air those. So the first one, and I'll just do one just to start us out. He listened to our Halloween episode.
Oh, okay. Throwback.
And he said he was inconsolable about our talk of candy corn because I said
No.
I didn't know anybody who would eat candy corn. And he said he couldn't believe it because both him and my mother love candy corn. And he said, and I paraphrase, he said he could not believe what I was saying, and if he weren't laying on the bed, he would have passed out on the floor. Which, let me just say, most people say I get my drama from my mom.
Oh, no.
I don't know, Gary. Let's talk about that.
Real Gary.
But he just wanted to make it known that he likes candy corn, and he thought I did because he's like, every year in the fall, I make a candy corn mix with like nuts and pretzels and everything. And I said, thank you. Jackie made a face, Dad. And he said, you ate it. I said, I ate the pretzels out
Right,
of it.
I picked out,
He
like,
was like, are
everything
you
but the
kidding?
candy
I said, yeah, no.
It's like when you have a trail mix and you're looking for the M&Ms and you just
Thank
pick up
you.
the M&Ms.
Exactly. But yeah, and then my
no.
mother's in the background on the phone going, I like candy corn too. And then she goes, and chocolate candy corn. And I said, be quiet. Be quiet. So
I've never heard of chocolate candy corn. I'm just terrified.
So there you go. So it's been known. The correction is that I didn't know anybody who ate candy corn. That was a lie. My father and my mother both like candy corn very much.
Apparently it's not genetic if you like candy
It's
corn.
not genetic. It's not genetic. It's confirmed. There's a couple other things. We'll save them for the other episodes.
Other episodes.
So like I said, Kathy, Greg, if you have corrections for us, please
send
those to your respective children. So there you go.
There you
Cults. Here we are. And here we go. Stay tired.
Betty.